Hi, so this week my group talked about Chapter 7, and we came up with the main idea that body language and communication is really important and can kind of determine the meaning of what you're saying without you really meaning to. Our bodies express meaning through gestures, tones, and movements, so all of these three things kind of affect the meaning behind what you're actually saying. So if you're kind of not engaged in a topic, but you feel like you are, your body language can give it away by like not making eye contact or just kind of being really closed off, like staring into space, stuff like that. Communication happens through verbal and nonverbal forms. So a lot of what people intake, kind of like a lot of what people take out of what you're saying isn't actually the words you're speaking. It's just kind of how you're saying them, what you're doing when you're saying them, stuff like that. A lot of this is the body and mind working together. Like I said, body language, eye contact, stuff like that. So obviously your body is essential in learning. You kind of train it to be good at learning, be good at like showing off the correct body language, stuff like that. So most people are talking about bodies and stuff like that. Most people have a pretty good idea of their identity, but what we don't realize is kind of identity is a lot more complex than we kind of like on the surface level. An example of this from the book that I found is like researchers did an experiment where part of it was they had to check off like what ethnicity they are, like what gender they are, and people that checked off multiple boxes kind of getting passed aside. So it's easier to interpret like their responses, which just obviously isn't morally correct. Talking about like bodies and identity, kind of the communication that we go through or the experiences that we go through really affect this. Not even just the like experiences that we've already had, but the experiences that we will have and even might have all kind of affect like our identity, our body language, how we communicate, stuff like that. Like I said, how we talk about and experience our bodies majorly shapes our identity. So going back to how body language can kind of affect the way we communicate. So a physical touch can really affect communication. So like if you're saying something and you're like you pat someone on the shoulder, you like affectionately touch them while you're saying it, it can impact emotional connection, comfort, and physical health. So the interpretation of touch is different for different cultures, genders, and relationships. So you wouldn't really like hold hands with your professor, but you would with like your friend. So also vocal qualities can really affect the meaning of how we talk. So stuff like your tone, your speed, your pitch, and volume of your voice can all add meaning and emotion to words. So really like if you're monotone, something might come across as like you're not interested, but if you're really loud or you're really engaged in the conversation, it can come off as like you're really excited. So body movements and gestures as a whole can really impact what you're saying. Stuff like facial expressions, things like that, like I said, can kind of overtake what you're saying. And I don't know, people pay more attention to kind of how you react to things that you're saying than what you're actually saying. So summarizing from what I took from that part of the chapter is paying attention to your and other people's body language is super important and beneficial. So if you're paying attention to the facial expressions you're making or the tone of your voice, it can help you better control your communication. And I honestly think that kind of wraps up what this entire chapter was about. So